Okay, welcome to the Ross Board of Education meeting. It's Thursday, November 16th, 2023. We'd like to reconvene our meeting from the work session. Prior to the Pledge of Allegiance, there was a very tragic accident that happened on Tuesday this week with some students on the way to the OSBA concert from Tusky Valley, and they lost a few students in this accident. So before we do the pledge, if we could do a moment of silence for that, please. Thank you. If we could, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll turn it over to Dr. Kunkel. If you could, please review the agenda.
Yeah, just some highlights under the superintendent section. Under personnel, there is a new payroll and benefits job description for your approval. Also, there are new salary schedules for our support staff. The second item is I am pleased and happy to bring forward to you a new collective bargaining agreement with our teachers union. This is much needed for our amazing staff. So that is for your approval. And then there are two overnight field trips. One is the wrestling team and the other one is the next generation. So those four items are the highlights from my section. Mr. Castaner, you want to discuss the treasurer section?
Yeah, we have 5 items under the treasurer session, a donation, our monthly investment report. And we also have a cash summary and another month comparison report for the month of October. And then also asking for approval for the 5-year forecast that we just presented earlier tonight.
Would anybody like to isolate any of those items under the superintendent recommendations and reports and the treasurer recommendations? None being heard. With that being said, could we have a first to approve the agenda, please?
Motion.
Mr. Chanel, could we have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Hayes, could you call the roll, Mr. Castaner?
Yes. Mr. Chanel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Kleinfelder?
Yes.
Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes. We'll move on to number 5, which is the approval and correction of minutes, October 19th, 2023. Can we have a first to approve those minutes, please?
Motion.
Mr. Chanel, can we have a second?
Motion.
Mrs. Hayes? Mr. Castaner, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Kleinfelder?
Yes.
Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Chanel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes. Move on. Do we have a legislative report?
We do not.
We do not, and we do not have a Butler Tech report. Butler Tech's next week, right, I think?
Next Tuesday, yes.
Okay. We'll move on to public comments. If we could have Ruby Meyer and Miles Hoff, did I say that right, hopefully? Do we have if you guys could grab that microphone.
Thank you.
Ruby and Miles would like to, okay. They would like to provide, they want information on providing period products in girls' bathrooms. The floor is yours.
So today we are presenting the idea of including free menstrual products for students in the girls' bathrooms here at school. We believe that including a basic essential for women will create a more safe and comfortable environment for girls here at school. When girls are in need of a period product, they end up missing larger chunks of class time or having to ask teachers or friends or go down to the nurse's office just to find products.
Earlier, we posted a survey to the Student Body Schoology page for girls to take and see how they would feel about actually implementing these into the bathrooms. And as you can see from your pamphlet, we received overwhelming results in favor of this idea. Many girls commented about some experiences that they've had, either embarrassing or just having to lend out to other girls and maybe not even having enough for themselves. We interviewed a fellow student. We made a podcast and we interviewed a fellow student, and we were able to gain personal experiences from her and how girls within the school have real everyday struggles on, even just finding like a tampon or something like that. She mentioned times when she wouldn't have any products left for herself because she would provide her products to other girls when they were in need.
Period Sanitary products are just like toilet paper. It's a basic necessity that we wouldn't expect people just to carry around just because bathrooms don't provide them. We understand that this does cost money, but is a small price to pay for girls feeling accepted and comfortable within the walls of the school. Thank you.
Okay, hold on.
So let me ask a question. So we do not have feminine products in bathrooms?
No.
We do not? We
I
will
have some good news.
The only
Excuse me?
place that they
I
can.
have good news.
Okay, we like good news.
The state of Ohio happens to 100% agree with you. And in our last foundation payment that we received just a few days ago, they included $500 for feminine product dispensers to be
There you go.
installed in
Look at that.
schools. So Mr. Huff has already ordered them, and we will be getting those in and installing them in the restrooms as soon as we possibly can.
Good news.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
job.
That was good.
Hear that?
Well, you saved me there.
Good job, Mr. Castater.
That makes sense. Let's move on, so I don't say anything stupid here. The floor is yours, Dr. Kunkel. We are to number 9.
So 4 items for your approval. I'd like to block those 4. Obviously, we talked about the personnel items. B is a collective bargaining agreement with our Ross Education Association. And then C and D are overnight field trips. So A through D as a block, please.
Okay, can we get a first under superintendent recommendations to block A through D? Can we get a first, please?
Motion.
Mr. Chanel, can we get a second? Does anybody have any, I have just a couple comments just around the collective bargaining. So, it's great, I think it's great news, obviously. But I'd be remiss not to say, there was a lot of heavy lifting, I think, to get to this. And Mr. Castater mentioned it, the 1.9 million in reduction or attrition, I think that had a lot to do with it. So hats off to you guys and the people, you know, Mr. Frazier, Mrs. Logan, because that wasn't easy. And then the healthcare negotiation, which was a lot of work, and it's still a ton of work on the treasurer's office. I call it the property tax levy that passed. Obviously, that has a lot to do with it. And Steve mentioned this, so it's the highest 2-year raise that the staff has received well over a decade, if not ever. We don't have that information. And then the county average, Steve, what is the county average this year and next year for raises?
A little over 2%.
So 2%,
2.08,
2.5.
2.3. Yep.
And so the average is 3.5. I'm only mentioning that because I'm glad that I'm getting off the board personally, but I'm also glad that I hope we're moving in a good direction with our staff, because I think the healing needs to start ASAP. So I think that's a great direction, a really good direction. And I'm going to say one thing about what we are proving too, and this has been a hot button for me, and you guys are sick of hearing me say it, but the salary schedule reform, in my opinion, and I'm glad there's a committee that's getting together, is long overdue. Our veteran teachers have been taking it for a long, long time. And I'm hoping that reform has a way to get, you're not going to right the ship, because it's been many, many years, but I think it's a way, hopefully, to get to a 2023 public education scale. I hope there's some leeway, or I hope there's some confidence that happens. And all you can do is negotiate it, and both people got to agree, but I think that's a way personally that I'd love to see the staff that's been around here for a long time get a way of hopefully ending their career on a high note with more money. So, anybody else have anything else for any of that? Just me. Good. Okay. With that being said, Mr. Castaner, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Kleinfelder?
Yes.
Mr. Schnell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes. We move on to 10, which is treasurer reports and recommendations.
Yep. I'd also like to block letters A through E together for one vote.
Okay, can we get a first on treasurer's reports and recommendations, A through E? A first, please?
Motion.
Mr. Chanel, second?
Second.
Mrs. Hayes, any discussion on that? Anybody have any questions? Okay, Mr. Castor, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Kleinfelder?
Yes.
Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Chanel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes. We'll move on to board comments. Mrs. Hayes, the floor is yours.
Congratulations. I'm glad that things worked out, and hope everyone has a great break.
Mr. Kleinfelder? Mr. Kleinfelder, do you have any update from the delegate meeting you had to sit through?
I would like to commend.
But hold on, before-
Anybody who has ever done that before.
Yeah.
At OSBA, that was probably the biggest example of parliamentary proceedings that I've ever seen in my life, and I can't believe they can get anything done in government if that's the way it all operates. Probably 40 minutes arguing over the word "wish" being removed from a amendment to the inserting the word "may" with 2 or 3 procedural objections and 4 or 5 pro comments and 4 or 5 con comments. So very.
Well, thank you for taking one for the team. And if I was you, I would nominate Mrs. Webb for that next year to see if she'd be interested.
I'm busy that day.
Any board comments from you, Mr. Kleinfelder?
No, just congratulations on the settling the contract, both for the administration and the REA. That's a good thing. And hopefully we'll get all those then and nows taken care of, since they're going to 2 previous treasurers' email. That's bad.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's good. Looking forward to the break.
Mr. Chanel?
Yeah, congratulations on the contract. 4 and 3%. I think it's a great step in the right direction. My first 3 years on the board, I think the raises, and I can't remember the order, but were 0, 1, and 2. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 over 5 years is still
So you saying it'll be a 5 and a 6 on the next one? I think it should be.
Strike that from the
but that over 5 years is still an average of about 2% a year. So step in the right direction. Hopefully, try to make up for some of what the teachers endured over the last couple of years.
No doubt. Mrs. Webb?
Yeah. Ditto. Yeah, I'm really happy that that this has been long overdue, obviously, and I feel like each year we've kind of both sides have had made concessions before we got a final contract in place. So I do believe it's a step in the right direction, and our teachers it's much obviously deserved, and if we could give them 50% more, we obviously would, because they deserve it. So yeah, we'll just keep fighting a good fight and keep working together. So thank you for getting all that done, and Steve, again, thank you for putting together the 5-year forecast. It was informative.
Okay. That being said, Mr. Castor, could you please call the roll?
For adjournment? Adjournment.
To
Okay.
adjourn.
Motion?
Motion, oh, I'm sorry. Can we get a first?
Motion.
Mr. Chanel, second. Mrs. Hayes?
Right. Mr. Kleinfelder?
Yes.
Mrs. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Chanel?
Yes.
Mrs. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Van Winkle?
Yes. Thank you.